everyone. So, Bobby, is it very choppy on my end?
It's not that bad. Welcome, everyone. I want everyone to remind everyone to check out Anonymous Addiction Deprogramming Podcast on YouTube, and then you can get a lot more information of what I am talking about on my Rehab Cafe. So check that out, everyone.
Okay, cool. So I've posted the link. Oh wait, it doesn't go through.
Bear with us for a couple minutes, ladies
Yeah,
and
sorry about
gentlemen.
that. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just posting the link via all of the channels. So we're broadcasting on the newly diagnosed YouTube channel, broadcasting via the ARC Facebook page, and also the My Rehab Helper profile. Those are the public channels. The link is posted in the comments. So if you guys want to hop on and participate, you can do so by clicking on the link. Um, well, so sorry about that. So yeah, you can you can hop on and participate either via video or audio by clicking on the link. Um, and if you're on the Myriad Facebook, the Myriad Pay group, if you got a higher degree of anonymity, we're going to be ending the live broadcast on the public channels, going strictly over to the Myriad Cafe group, so you guys can participate there after about 20 minutes on the public channel. So, Bobby, how you doing? You were away for a while. Hey, how was the trip?
Oh, well, I don't want to get into that too much. We'll be wasting too much time. But yes, I was away for a month and 2 weeks. I was on a trip back to Jersey and Florida for a month. I did a couple podcasts with you during that let's say traveling time. And then we took a lot of flights, and so we're back in town in California. Back here
Cool.
over to in United States. Today's the 4th of July. It's Independence Day over here in United States.
Oh, cool. Okay. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. So you guys are celebrating, hey?
Nah, we're just relaxing. Like I told you before, me and my wife contracted that COVID-19, so we got a mild case. So it's been about 5 days. So we've been doing pretty good.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that you guys are okay. Though, yeah. Cool. Bobby, you said you wanted to do a bit of an intro to on today's topic, eh? What did you have in mind?
Well, let's see. We are the solution. We're going to change the title eventually. Well, next podcast probably. We are the solution. Freedom from addiction, going beyond the 12-step paradigm. Okay, what does Bobby mean by that? It's not just Bobby, the whole I think the whole country, the whole world is going beyond the 12-step paradigm. If it wasn't, DSM the DSM-5 has changed their vocabulary, their language. Uh, I think it was 2013 when they came out with the DSM-5, and before that it was years and years prior to the DSM-4, and I printed this out last year, and I really didn't get into it and start reading it, but I just started reading it today, and I've been saying here's the thing. I've been saying things for years from my experience, my research, my life journey throughout this 38 years involved in this recovery quote industry, and I found out a lot of different things. But people try to tend to not allow you to have an opinion through your own research because it's not scientific. But the weird part about it is all these uh, all these DSMs written by what? Who really writes them and searches them is the APA, which is the American Psychiatric Association. Uh, but this podcast is going beyond. We're going to be doing some deprogramming, some reprogramming, and it's just going to be some controversial topics because a lot of people, it takes years and years to break through the paradigm, to allow people to really accept new things. So I believe this is the newest thing, and the only reason why I'm on here is because Ryan is doing something in his rehab in South Africa that I believe in. He's creating a platform for someone to talk about alternatives, an alternative method. I wouldn't be on here, to tell you the truth. I would not be on this channel or part of this society if it wasn't like that. So I tip my hat off to you, Ryan, and thank you for allowing me to be on here.
No, thank you, Bobby, and you've always got something valuable to say, man. So, and I appreciate it. And again, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's important for people to have options when it comes to being on a journey of self-discovery. So we've got Megan that's just hopped on, Bobby.
Oh, there I am.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, Bobby.
Hey,
Hi,
Megan.
Ron.
Hey, Megan. How are you doing?
Good, good. How
Nice
are
to.
you?
I've heard you so many times, but I haven't actually been on with you, so it's a pleasure.
Hmm.
Thank you so much.
So exciting indeed, eh?
Yes.
Mm.
So, where do you want to go with this, Ryan?
Well, I think, Bobby, I think you're seeing a lot of people discharged. There's a group that's being discharged from the center in the coming week, and I've been chatting to some of them, and I know that they are all looking um, for different options in terms of aftercare, right? So, and this obviously forms part of that. So I don't know. What do you chat about? Megan, have you got anything you want? Have you seen any of my stuff with Bobby or our conversations? Do you want to maybe discuss?
Yeah, no, I have definitely. Obviously, I've come in at like in the middle of this conversation, so I'm still catching on to what you're discussing tonight.
Tonight we're just look. This is more or less a questions and answers. Tell you the truth,
Mm.
uh, uh, it's this is what we're doing here on this podcast or this episode. I don't even want to call it a group. I don't want to call it a program
Mm.
uh, because there's so many programs, so many different groups. This is more or less a thinking, questioning, observing, and becoming aware of different things that may be contradicting to someone's belief.
Okay.
Where let me ask this here. Let's see, Megan.
Hey, so,
Let me ask Megan something. The definition of addiction, addict. The word addiction is derived from the Latin word addict.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what what I've found out, I researched that word years ago, and the weird part about it is that in the DSM-5, it says the exact same thing that I found out on my own without someone telling me. So I had to research it. So this podcast is more or less about people doing their own research.
Okay.
Not that research isn't good, but doing our own research and checking things out on our own because let's see, the bondage addiction was originally used to describe assignment. And this is the DSM talking, not me. But it was the same definition that I found. Assigning of a debtor to the custodian of his creditor. Describing the original or the word addiction typically refers to the bond of slavery. that lenders impose upon delinquent debtors or victims on their convicted aggressors. Such individuals were mandated to be addicted to servants of the person to whom they owed restitution. The word was used to describe devotion to someone or something. Now, that word bond of slavery, I mention it in a lot of my podcasts, that I actually believe that Alcoholics Anonymous, and when people become addicted to a certain program or a certain method or modality, they become enslaved in a sense. What do you think about that, Megan or Ryan?
Um, yeah, definitely very, very interesting points that you're touching on, Bobby. I think what I often say to Ryan is that different perspectives are so amazing because it gives each person an opportunity to find a place where they feel welcomed and when they feel a sense of belonging. And ultimately, I mean, that's what we want to create for people. Um, Something that I do agree definitely with what you said is research, and I encourage people to do as much research as they can around whatever they are going through on their journey, so that you can be as aware as possible and get to know yourself and your journey through everything that you are empowering yourself with, through all that information that you are empowering yourself with. Um, but then you see, I also think that it's, with that, it would be walking with a support system whilst doing that, whether it be your healthcare professional or your counselors, or whoever you are on your journey with. Um, I I do, Bobby, think, like I say, this is just for me and how I see it. I think that um, a different approach is, like I mentioned earlier. I think it's great because I don't think that there's one size fits all, and I think that there's billions of individual people in the world, and so I love the fact that there are different approaches, so that however a person can get assistance, it's then available to them. So that's really, where the direction that I go in is, I respect, I have respect for all the approaches, because I think that there's a place for the different approaches, so that everyone's got an opportunity no matter where they're at.
Agreed. I too agree to what you just said. Uh, the only pushback I would have, if there was any, would be yes, in the beginning. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel that recovery, this so-called addiction recovery, has an exit strategy, or do you believe it's a lifelong process that can never be uh, dealt with, let's say, or
I believe that you're on a journey. You're on a journey of discovery. You're on a journey to find your purpose, meaning, and joy. And whether there's a I can't say that I believe that there's just this like ultimate destination where we reach, and then we've just kind of arrived. I think that again, just for me, the journey of self-discovery is ongoing. We are ever improving, we are ever growing, we are ever learning. So I think that when you're coming out of addiction and out of substance abuse, you're on a journey, of self-discovery. It goes that way.
Agreed 100%
Yes.
again. So it's a self-discovery, yes.
Mm.
I kind of heard that you're kind of saying that there's an exit strategy out of this recovery thing into self-discovery, which I say all the time. I say uncover, recover, and discover the truth about ourselves, society, the world, and the universe. So yes, I believe that this is a evolving, uh, let's say, raising our consciousness level awareness to a higher level. And in order to do that, I fully believe that sometimes we have to go beyond something, let's just say the 12 step paradigm, or even, let me even go further. I'll go just a little bit further and I mean, people may say, Bobby, you're crazy, but even going beyond the DSM-5. I mean, let's just say that if the DSM-5 didn't go beyond themselves, we would still be considering homosexuality a disease. Okay? Because yes, it was diagnosed as a disorder and a disease. I think back in 1973 they changed it. So, when they used to burn witches at the stakes, and they'd say that the Valium wasn't addictive, everything evolves and changes. So all this podcast, or all this questions and answers that I pose upon, let's say, the human race, is question. Go beyond. Okay, go beyond the possibility. I even like to go beyond this here in the DSM when it says without treatment or engagement in recovery activities, addiction is a progressive and can result in disability or permanent death. But that's without engage. But it doesn't specify, like, how long. How long should. I agree 100% that in the beginning we all need support. You know, we all do. For how long though? I discovered that everyone goes. They tend to go towards another. Let I'll just use the word another addiction, or let's not even call it an addiction. Another tribe or another group or another program. Let's just talk about motivational speaker, Anthony Robbins. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of him over in South Africa, but he's big here in the United States, and I know he travels the world, Anthony Robbins. We can get addicted to Anthony Robbins because it's almost like a dopamine fix because of the high. So we go get our high off of Anthony Robbins and his tapes and his CDs and come back. But when we don't have Anthony Robbins, when we don't have the CDs, our dopamine levels go down and we feel we need something. All I'm saying is eventually, and I don't believe they call them newcomers, new people. I believe people can get this quicker than we're really told them to believe that they can't get it quicker. Now, I'm not saying don't go. Me personally, when I first came in, I joined everything and anything. I got involved with a lot of different things, okay? I joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was involved in ACOA and CODA, and I joined the men's groups, and I got into spiritual books, and what I was doing is I was distracting myself from the addiction of alcohol and drugs. And was that great? That was a great thing. It was a good thing. But all I'm saying is eventually today, this human body, this body, it's a gift, as you know, Megan. If anyone would know, it's a gift from the Creator. Let's say it's His gifts, and the human body is a temple, and it's untapped yet. Even the mind, they say, is untapped. So all this podcast is about is untapping more potentiality, more bringing the subconscious to the conscious, making more things aware. One-on-one therapy, I think, is great. I had it. It helped me tremendously. I went to one-on-one to group. I don't believe in any more groups bigger than 6. Okay? I believe in group therapy. I believe in doctors and I believe in psychiatrists and I believe in therapists and stuff like that. But I do tend to believe that it has been abused and it's been so massively produced that I'm very careful today. I'm more careful than I've ever been today about society's indoctrination of things.
So, Bobby, if I can come in here, so back. I'm just gonna sort of reference the DSM. I think the DSM, as with any other medically informed document or even medication, for example, I think it's always something that's going to be a work in progress. So I don't just like, as with as you mentioned, sort of the process of self-discovery, right? I think as humans, I mean, we discover when penicillin only became widely available. It was the first antibiotic. It only became widely available in the 1970s. That wasn't very long ago. It was in the scope of our entire history. It's like 10 seconds ago, right? Or a split second ago. It wasn't long. So there's advancements being made on a daily basis, and I think that's sort of starting to it's starting to get quicker and quicker. So the DSM, I think I hear what you're saying, Bobby. You're not into the whole labels thing, right? So but I think when diagnosing somebody with a particular sort of disorder, like for example ADHD, okay, or even addiction, right? So it lists a set of symptoms, and if you sort of fall within 4 or 5 of those symptoms, if you exhibit 4 or 5 of those symptoms, it can safely be assumed that you fall into that particular category of diagnosis, right? And that informs the best case treatment that might be available for that sort of particular set of symptoms. Everybody's unique, obviously. So some might sort of show symptoms that are worse than others. There might be no symptoms for one thing and some symptoms for another thing. But I think the DSM is designed to generalize or to categorize. Let me put it that way. It's designed to categorize, and it's designed to put disorders into categories and list symptoms so that can inform the best possible available treatment that might be available for that category. If the DSM had to take into account everybody's particular unique characteristics and each diagnosis would be as thick as you have an encyclopedia of DSMs. Do you know what I mean? Which is a little bit unrealistic. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I think it's meant to categorize and again inform healthcare providers on how to on best case treatments that are available. So from a point of view, I agree with you, Bobby, in that going beyond 12-step paradigm or 12-step modality is definitely something that I was interested in, which is how I found you. I mean, I sort of started Googling anti-12-step YouTube videos, and I don't know if you came up, but maybe I wasn't Googling anti-12-step, but I was Googling something about like deprogramming or something along those lines, and you came up and we touched base, and we both agree, I think, that a lot of the 12 steps can be in a lot of ways dangerous. It might not be the case for everybody. Their experience might not be the same as mine, and they might be in a different stage of recovery to me. if you want to put it that way. But I feel like moving beyond that paradigm is something that I'm very interested in learning about. Hey? And again, just back to the ADHD thing, I believe it was very recently mentioned that ADHD sort of it's turned into a lifelong chronic diagnosis. Okay, whereas a lot of healthcare professionals a couple of years ago thought, okay, cool, you can give it to a 6-year-old, and then when he's 18, you can take him off and he'll be fine. But that's not what the studies are showing to be effective. The studies are showing that it's a lifelong chronic thing. So, I mean, ADHD only really sort of came on the scene around about the mid 80s, which also wasn't very long ago at all. So I think these things are all still work in progress, and people are still investigating them and looking at them. And I don't know if that helps, or that's if I've given a fair comment.
Megan?
Yeah, I think that, again, for me, I think it's very important to look at the biopsychosocial model, again, and not generalize, because when you're looking at the biopsychosocial model of addiction, you're looking at everything about a person. You're looking at the psychological aspects, the social aspects, the biological aspects that make up that person. So again, to just generalize for me, is definitely something that I don't agree with. I believe that when you're looking at the biopsychosocial model, you will see that in there the psychiatrist fits in, and in there the medical model fits in with medication or mental health or disorders or whatever. And then you look at the other parts of that model, which is your social, and then like the connecting and the path of self-discovery and all of that. So yeah, I mean, for me, I definitely see the place for the medical model and the psychotherapy model. The medical model, which includes psychotherapy, which includes also, what I was going to say is when you're coming into your journey of self-discovery and you've been in an addiction, you're learning the skills and the tools. And so, Bobby, to answer your question earlier about, is it like always with us? I think that those things that you learn when you're coming into recovery or onto your path of self-discovery, I mean, I think that those become, almost like principles and values that you will take with you for the rest of your journey of self-discovery. A simple thing like boundaries, or again, connection or something like that. So yeah, I mean, like I say, it's so awesome to have different perspectives and stuff like that. But yeah, from where I come from, it's definitely like I say, a biopsychosocial approach, looking at everything that forms the person,
So that's from a treatment point of view, Megan, would you say, or do you think that applies throughout the lifetime of a person?
Yeah, well, I think it's when somebody's coming into they want to start a journey. I'm referring here specifically to addiction because that's the the context that we're talking about. So when a person comes into addiction, they come into treatment from substance abuse or whatever, and you look at the whole situation. I mean, it's also important to remember that there are things that cause addiction, and then there are things that addiction causes as well. So there's factors that contribute, such as trauma, childhood experiences and all of that. But then also the brain is long-term use does affect the structure of the brain as well. So again, that's why, for me, it's not so generalized, because each person's brain will have a different effect of the substance use, and each person's reason before going into addiction is also unique to them. So definitely looking at the situation of that person as a whole person. And I think when coming into recovery and when starting the journey again of self-discovery, the things that we are learning while our brain is rewiring and while we are moving towards our purpose and moving towards authenticity and moving towards the best version of ourselves, so to speak, those, like I say, we form principles and we form values, and we carry those with us. And I think that it's important to stay on the path of knowing when we are going astray in our behaviors and in our thoughts and all of that.
Yeah.
A lot of information.
Yeah. You know what? That's good, because you're that look. A lot of the stuff that you just said, I'm not trying to invalidate or discount anything that
Of course.
anybody said over here, but I have to, I make statements and sometimes they're not articulately proper, or like the vocabulary isn't right. It's like almost like we my podcast, Anonymous Addiction Deprogramming Podcast on YouTube, is not just about deprogramming from the 12-step paradigm. Okay. First of all, for me to understand what is going on in society, the world, and the universe, I have to go back in history. Okay? So I have to study way, way, way back in history to kind of get some information to piece out the puzzles. So when I talk about deprogramming, I'm not just talking about deprogramming from the 12-step paradigm. I'm talking about deprogramming from possible society's indoctrination into certain elements. Let's just say that schools, universes, and education, where did that come from? So I have to go back in time, in history, to find out where that came from and how that evolved out of holistic studies into the medicalization and pharmaceutical industry, and leaving like the holistic cures, calling them quackery, and then calling the rest okay. First of all, everything that Megan, you might have said, would you agree that a lot of it has been programmed from education and from studies that you went to school with? Or are you actually like saying some of? I'm not saying if this is wrong. I'm just saying, would you agree that a lot of the things that you just talked about was from education?
I think a mixture of education and experience.
Experience. Now, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, would you agree that life experience is its own research, can be its own research through time?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we learn from our experiences if we choose to. Our experiences can influence a lot of our current and future decisions.
I think that's a very, very deep question, Bobby. That's like that I think that deserves like a full on thesis for an answer, to be honest with you.
Thesis.
Yeah, so the question was, I think, what can your experience be deemed its own version of research? Is that the question, Bobby?
Well, I know the answer, and I say 100% it is, but yeah, that's a question. I don't really think it's that deep, because first of all, I think society wants to kind of like put a damper on that. because if you have any opinions or if you have anything that is outside of the scientific professional research study, and would both of you agree that research can be manipulated?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It can be manipulated. It can be presented in a way that could be considered disingenuous. So it can be misrepresented. I believe all of that. Yes, yeah.
Okay, let me get back. We get off of that because that might be too. That's not really deep. But here's the thing that I wanted to get back to. No labels. Now, I started this years ago, and there's people they've been talking about this for 15 years. Okay, 30 years. Now the DSM, because the DSM writes it, they're only now. I'm not knocking the DS. Believe me, it sounds like I'm putting down the DSM. I'm not. All I'm doing is trying to make people aware of certain things. That's all. Maybe to expand the look, to kind of bring back the veil and just take a peek at something different that may be, it could. They're made up of human beings. So if they're made up of human beings, it's like almost like if one person can't make a difference, then what the hell is Elon Musk doing? He's one person. Okay, or let's go back in time. If you don't think Rockefeller had any influences, he was the richest man in the world, and probably still is today. Carnegie, if you don't think he had influence, research names like, Rockefeller and what influence he had on the medical industry. Research, go way back to the Flexner Report, 1910 Flexner Report. When I do research, I go back in time and I piece things together and piece puzzles together. So it can be, I can see it clearly, more clearly. Now people say that, Bobby, you're a conspiracy theorist, and you know what? Yes, I am. I'll admit, because there's so many things that are conspiracy. It's only two people or three people conspiring against something. You can consider me a conspiracy theorist, and that's okay, because I really don't be offended by that. But even the DSM says the policy explicitly suggested avoiding terms such as, this is, when they make the decision in 2014, it's okay. Okay, but when one person makes a decision to do it, it's not okay, because it could be conspiracy. Okay, so the DSM or the APA, the APA, the American Psychiatric Association, which is the controller of the DSM, really. So they say, don't use addict no more. Stop using addiction. Don't use alcoholic, because due to a negative connotation associated with these terms. So they changed the language.
Do they expressly say that in the DSM, Bobby?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is under. Let's see. Yeah. Addiction. A person with a substance use disorder is suggested as more of an appropriate terminology. U.S. Office of Natural Drug Control Policy 2014. The World Health Organization in 2012 suggests a change in the terminology, regarding substance dependence. They actually, if you research, where it comes from, there's so many organizations. There's hundreds of layers of organizations with this. It's not just one organization. This is what they say. They say alcoholism. Ism, if you research the word ism, I-S-M, ism just means a movement. A movement created in the 1800s by Benjamin Rush. Really, alcoholism was a movement and still is today. And it says alcoholism is a non-medical term used most often in everyday language within the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay. So they're changing all the words, they're changing the language. They're evolving. Yes, they're evolving. But let's not discount, because Megan, you have to believe that if you believe in Jesus, okay, and Jesus, let's just say I believe when Jesus said, "I am the way," which I say this in many of my podcasts. Jesus says, "I am the way," but I believe what he was saying is, "You are the way." When he said, "I am the way," he said, "Everybody say that. Let me hear you say that. I am the way." You know, that's what I believe. And I believe slowly, not slowly, but yeah, subtly and slowly, things are being taken away from us. Like here in the United States, it's the 4th of July, it's Independence Day. Actually, this world is becoming less independent and more dependent. It hasn't evolved in the right direction. It seems like it's evolving in the opposite direction where it's getting worse than better. If it wasn't, why is addiction so much greater today? And we're not even talking about social media. We're not talking about government addiction, okay, which I get into all that, you know. So yes, Ryan and Megan, I do go deep. I go deep down the rabbit hole, and sometimes it's it's not very nice to kind of take a peek at.
No, look, Bobby, I think on a macro level, um, I would 100% agree that there are things that are happening behind the scenes that the vast majority of the world's populations might not be aware of, and it's definitely influencing our way of life on the ground, so to speak. Fuel's going up tomorrow. Hey, Megan, how much? Is it tomorrow? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
tomorrow.
like another 2 rand
It's
or
another 2 rand.
something.
It's like becoming absurd. And oh, is it because of Russia and Ukraine, and is it because the Federal Reserve decided to print shitloads of money? And, I don't know. It's definitely having an impact on our way of life on the ground. And agreed, Bobby. There are people 100% up there, sort of somewhere, making these decisions that are impacting us, and it's scary. It's scary to think about it, and I think I mean, what are you gonna do though? Like,
What we're
I don't
doing,
know.
we're doing what we're do. We're doing it right here, I believe. We're doing it in the now. We're doing it. It's happening right at this moment. I think we're making a change in our ways. People say, we always hear that every there's an individual. There's so many different ways. I like Megan. I believe she believes there's one way, and that's the Jesus Christ. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but uh,
No, I think Megan, you said earlier that you believe in multiple approaches, eh?
So I
I'm
Bobby, to
talking. I'm
answer.
talking about your belief, what you personally believe.
Well, yeah. So I'm a Christian, but it's as I said on one of the talks the other night. I'm not here to advocate for any specific approach. I'm here to support the individual on their journey um, towards their path of self discovery. You know, I think that the most important, one of the most important things for me is if someone decides they want a better quality of life and they want to get clean of substance and alcohol, and they want to live their life um, full of joy and purpose, and they have chosen an approach that's going to work for them, then ultimately, if that's what's going to take them to their goal, who am I to dispute that. I'm merely just there to, to facilitate their process.
Yes. Another thing, getting back to that stigma, the stigma and labels. Stigma rooted in the misperception that a substance use disorder is a personal failing rather than a brain disease is a major obstacle to drug policy. See, they had Alcoholics Anonymous. I believe, this is what I believe. It may sound like, Bobby, how can you even say that? It's crazy. Stopping alcohol and drugs is that easy. I believe it's that easy, because if it wasn't that easy, then why are millions and millions and millions of people have done it from not using to using, or from using to not using? From using to not using, it takes one moment, okay, and it happens. That's not the issue. We all know that, right? So it's more than that. If it was just that easy, millions and millions of people do it, they stop. It's something else, right? We all understand that it's something else. But the DSM say it's not a moral failing. It's a disease. Okay, so if it's a disease, I'm not responsible for it. Okay, because I have a disease. So that in itself is disempowering, I believe. It's not powerful, it's dispowerful. So we have this conflict with morality when Russell Brand and Jordan Peterson talk together, and they talk about how the 12-step has to, the whole recovery thing is about morals. Okay. And I know Ryan knows what I'm talking about because he listens to Jordan Peterson all the time. Now, Russell and Jordan talk about morals, the characteristic of a human being, and morals. So then it's not about the alcohol and drugs. We know that because that's only a symptom. All right. But if you label it a disease, then I'm not responsible for it. So I have a disease. So if I go into Alcoholics Anonymous or any other modality that projects or tells me that I have a disease and I'm powerless over this alcohol and drug thing, then where do I have to go? Then the only place they take me is into the moral aspect of almost Christianity, I would say. But I actually think that it doesn't have to do with morals. It has to do with distraction and rewiring of the circuitry in the brain, which you agree because scientific studies show that, and many other scientists that go beyond this paradigm of certain type of research go even beyond that and say we're capable of rewiring our DNA, reprogramming our DNA. So if that can be possible, then maybe it's not, I'm not saying having good morals, but whose morals are we adopting when we have to go into Alcoholics Anonymous and say we have to practice these principles, not principles, these principles. They are telling me or telling others that they have to practice these principles, which are a moral set of principles, and God, because A, B, and C, pertinent ideas, 3 pertinent ideas, you're powerless over alcohol. No human
Can
power.
I interject? So Bobby, something that I think is very interesting is, if you think about this from a psychological point of view, right? If I spend my time being dishonest to my wife about where I am, okay, because I want to go and get a fix, for example. So I want to, and I want to have experienced the consequence of her giving me a hard time about it, right? So I lie to her and I'm like, cool, listen, I'm just quickly going to the shop for 3 days, or if I'm constantly dishonest to her, right? And let's say, for example, like when I start that process of like using or drinking, and I come home and I get out of hand, and she's like, "Hey man, you got to stop drinking," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll stop drinking." Carry on drinking, get out of hand, and she says, "Listen, this is getting out of hand. I'm warning you. If you continue doing this, you're going to be in trouble with me." And then I decide, okay, cool. Let me be dishonest about it. Let me sneak it around. Let me hide the stuff around and let me do all of those things, right? You end up building these circuits in your brain, which become almost like Jordan Peterson puts it, almost a kind of personality, right? So it's like smoking a cigarette, for example. If I wake up every day and I have that first cigarette, and every time after a meal I have a cigarette, and every time after I have a coffee I have a cigarette, what's going to happen that day when I pick up the coffee? I'm gonna crave that dog, that Pavlov's dog, right? You ring the bell and he rang the bell and the dog started salivating. Eventually, he trained them to salivate because he fed them every time he rang the bell, and then when he rang the bell, they'd salivate, and then he'd give them their food. So like he created a physiological response to the sound of the bell that they associated with food. So in that sense, that's kind of like, I think, what they're talking about when they talk about it as a disease. Your brain becomes wired, and not just from a physiological point of view. Well, maybe, I don't know, but like there's definitely, I mean, it becomes so a part of your personality that, so that needs to be understood, and treatment needs to be informed with that understanding in mind. I don't know if that makes sense. See?
It makes sense. I just said that. I mean, I said the exact same thing prior to you saying all that. Okay.
So I mean,
I said the exact same thing.
That a disease, bro?
Well, I don't call it a disease, but I said the exact same thing. I don't call it a disease. Look, I was. They in the DSM it even said, not the DSM. Check out anything. It's a self-diagnosed disease. So first of all, who diagnosed me with the disease? Society or the medical field? So if I have a self-diagnosed disease, I can undiagnose myself. I don't have a disease. I agree 100% because I just got done saying that. We need to rewire our brains. People call them, years ago, 38 years ago, I didn't even know what the word trigger meant. Okay? Today they use different words. They use a lot of different words that they didn't use 38 years ago. But I knew something. They know that if you constantly bombard yourself with a new habit, a new, I don't even like to call it a habit, let's just call it something new all the time in the beginning, it's going to yes, I agree with you 100%. But the only difference between what I said and you said, I didn't use the word diseased, and you did.
Okay, so let me rephrase. Sorry, maybe disease is a bit disorder. Okay, because it is disordered. I mean, it's
okay. Well, in the holistic
It's
field, look, thousands of years ago they talked about imbalance and disorder. Okay.
Well, I just want to quickly say, sorry, man. I've got 5 minutes before the lights go out. The country's giving me a deadline on this damn.
Go ahead. I'm gonna shut up and you two talk. Go ahead.
No. I'm just saying. So if the lights go out in 5 minutes, please forgive me.
Go ahead, Megan.
No, I'm still listening.
Ryan.
So yeah, Bobby. So then we're on the same page. I mean, I think it is possible to transcend that. I mean, to overcome those circuits that we create through the process of I'm going to use the word addiction. So, from chronic usage of drugs, we create these circuits, and they become so powerfully motivating that it's almost second nature, to sort of like hit that dishonest button and sort of lie. Oh, that's where I was going with this. And I think that's kind of where the moral thing, and this is just me thinking out loud as we go along, right? So you mentioned morality. Where does morality come into it, right? You know, and again, me getting that substance, which is something my wife doesn't want for me. She's very unhappy about it. My family doesn't like it. So I start resorting to means that aren't necessarily, they kind of like defy a good sense of morality, you know, because like lying is an immoral act, right? Isn't it? You know, I've built these circuits in my brain based on the action, which is an immoral action, over and over and over and over again. And I've developed that and turned it into this powerful thing in my brain. You know, what do I replace that with? I replace that with sort of like the movement towards the opposite, which is, okay, cool, I've got to start being honest, and I've got to start trying to be honest at every turn, so that I could transcend this dishonesty network that I've circuit that I've created. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I'm just saying that in Alcoholics Anonymous, their morals come from, you seeking God, and I don't
Yeah,
believe
no,
that you have to seek God to have morals. I mean, this word moral, that's another word that people love to kind of. I believe we're born with it. It's almost an innate born. I mean, if I do something
instinct.
shit, yeah, it's an instinct. I mean, if I do shitty things, I'm going to feel it. But some people psychologically, there are people psychologically that have no guilt and have no. I mean, mass murderers, they don't have no guilt. They have no moral. But it's like, let's go back to the deadly seven sins, okay? Because Megan knows, and Ryan, you both know. We all know what the seven deadly sins are. Okay, so if you go to an extreme of any of those, it can become very devastating, and the consequences for society or individuals or relationships get out of balance, out of disorder. Okay,
Sure. Yeah.
so sometimes we try to overcomplicate some simple things. If we go back into
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of years ago, they've been teaching us these things for thousands and thousands of years. Okay, all of a sudden, look, maybe if we would have stuck to the basics of thousands and thousands of years, what they've been trying to teach us, we would be a better society and a better world. Is it getting better? Okay. If it wasn't, I don't know. If look,
Do you think it's getting better, Bobby, or you reckon it's
no, it's
getting
not getting better.
getting weird?
No, no.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to bullshit ourselves and fake like, oh, don't look at the negativity because that means I'm thinking negative. No, I can think positively. Thinking inside of my body and my mind. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. Knowledge and awareness doesn't really make, once the veil has been lifted, it doesn't make me any more angry. Do I like it? Look, I have to look at the negative aspect and the good, good and negative, because society wants us to always look, like Megan maybe can relate to this, the world. What does the Bible say about the world, Megan? And if we're always looking at the worldly things, and that's what society is bringing us to. Not it's the puppeteers, the people that are controlling the society, capitalism and materialism, and look. Let's just talk about the cell phone. If you don't think we're addicted to this, what moral?
I've got a theory on that. My power's going to run out, but I like Elon Musk's version of of what the cell phone means, and he talks about it being or meaning that we're sort of almost transitioning into sort of a hybrid, that sort of half machine, half human, right? And I like that idea. I like the idea of this being an extension of me. So are we evolving into, we don't have to call it addiction, are we evolving into cyborgs? Like now we're going down another rabbit hole. But I would, if that guy comes up, if that guy says, listen, I can implant a chip in your brain and you can type whatever you want just by thinking about it and access the internet through I'd be the first in line, 100%. I'd immediately. I think that's amazing, and I think that's where we're gonna go. So if you want to say, okay, cool, cell phones, people are addicted to their cell phones. I choose to see it in a different sort of way. I think we're
Okay,
gonna merge.
okay. Let me go. Let me. Okay. Now, young kids. I'm talking about young kids. Go on Instagram, TikTok, any of those social medias. All you see is sex, flashing of craziness. There's some great things. This could be used. It's just like anything. It could be used at a good thing, or it could be used at a bad thing. I don't believe AI is going to be a good thing for humanity or humans. I don't. That's my opinion, but I don't believe AI. I believe people are making Elon Musk into a god, and I think they're making him into a god, and I don't make him into a god. People make Jordan Peterson into a god. They make Anthony Robbins into a god, Bill Wilson into a god, whatever. I listen. I take a little bit of this, a little bit
what
of
do you
this.
mean by God? Like you
An
saying that
idol. He means an idol, I think.
an idol. So yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, I suppose
It is
people.
okay.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
look. If we're not look, sometimes like Megan's group. I thought that Megan might be. There's probably a lot of people that want to uh, join the group because they believe in Jesus Christ. Okay, they believe in uh, Jesus as the Savior through go to Jesus to get to God or whatever, and they believe in the Bible and they read the Bible. I think more people would want to hear that and from her personal experience. So if she look, we all have to. If we're all in, I don't believe we're all individuals. Number one, as far as individuality goes, as far as the mind, because the mind, they know, they study the brain, study the mind, study the consciousness, study the unconscious, the subconscious, study all that. You'll find out that we're pretty wired, pretty the same. If it wasn't that way, why would advertisement work so great? Okay, why would subliminal messaging? Why would osmosis, why would hypnosis, why would repetition, why would all that work so great if they didn't know more about the brain than they do? We need to understand about our bodies, our consciousness, our minds, and our brains more than they do. We need to be controller of our minds, instead of letting other people control and manipulate our minds. So we asked the question: are we still being programmed somehow? You know.
so can I comment on that before my power goes off again? So what you're saying, Bobby, in essence, is really like, listen, guys, don't be naive. Don't just buy into anything because you're told it or it's in a book. Like, be critical and look at it with your eyes open. Um, I mean,
Beautiful,
essentially,
beautiful.
yeah, cool.
You could repeat that over again, and I mean, that was well said.
Cool. So don't just be critical. Don't be naive. Look and approach things with your eyes open, and a degree of being a degree of critical analysis is can be healthy. Yeah.
Hey, you never know. See, I'm open. Okay, so I stay open. Who knows? I can go back. I can evolve back into a full circle and become what my mother gave me. She gave me Christianity. She passed on Catholicism. I did every ritual in the Catholic Church. Who knows where I evolve back to? Okay, I can evolve back there. I don't know. I'm still open. I'm still moving. I'm still learning. You know, I might be joining Megan's group in another couple months.
No, listen. I think this was an awesome live video. To be honest, I was fielding some stuff that's happening in the background. So just excuse me if I wasn't completely present, but I thought this was really engaging and interesting. And I hope the viewers found it engaging and interesting as well. It looks like we got a couple of likes and a heart, so that's cool.
Megan, I wasn't too hard on anybody, was I?
No ways. No, I think it was informative and Megan, do you
respect.
feel
I respect.
violated?
Megan, did you feel okay, or did you feel uncomfortable?
No,
or-
of course. You know what? Like I was saying just now, different perspectives and the ability to come together and discuss and even wrestle with each other, whatever it is. I mean, what an opportunity.
Sure, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need more of this in the world.
definitely.
I just want to add, although although a lot of things are getting worse in the world, as you say, Bobby, I think that a lot of things are also, there are things that are getting better, like the awareness around addiction and the awareness around neurodiversity
How's
and
my
this
last?
guy.
My thing is beeping. It's gonna switch off.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Say
So
that again, Megan. Go ahead. There is a lot of good still. You're right.
Yes.
I agree with you. There's a lot of bad, and there's a lot of greatness.
There's a lot of good as well.
A lot of greatness. So let's stick with the greatness and be aware
Okay.
and be aware of the evil.
for sure. Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot,
Thank
Bobby.
you, guys.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Ryan. Peace
Okay.
over there in South Africa.
Thank
Likewise,
you.
Bobby. Enjoy Independence Day, man. Cool.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.